You hear about bank robbers using cars, motorcycles, sometimes tunnels dug for months, but a helicopter landing on a roof at 5:15 in the morning while police choppers sit grounded by fake bombs? That happened. Stockholm, September 23rd, 2009. The Vestberga G4S cash depot. And the tool that made the impossible vault access possible wasn't some $1 million rappelling rig. It was two 20-foot extension ladders, zip tied to helicopter skids, hardware store metal, plastic ties, rope lines to haul bags. The kind of setup you could price out for under $300 if you knew where to shop. 3 men dropped through a skylight, grabbed 39 million Swedish kroner in under 30 minutes, and hoisted themselves and their cash back up using the same cheap system. This is why that rope system worked when every security protocol said it shouldn't. The room where staff process notes before they go to banks and ATMs across Sweden. September 23rd was 2 days before the 25th, unofficial national payday. The depot held peak cash, 1 billion Swedish kroner, roughly 150 million US dollars. Johan Peterson, 29, ex-military captain, director of security for G4S cash handling, knew the date made them a target. They got hit at least once a month. But Vestberga had never been touched. The pyramid was reinforced glass. The counting room had forced entry-resistant steel doors rated for 15 minutes of heavy attack. The vault sat 2 floors below on the 2nd floor. Security cameras covered every angle, motion sensors, panic buttons, and police helicopter support from Midinga Base on Värmdö Island, 25 miles east. A red and white Bell 206 Jet Ranger, registration SEHKP, stolen at 4:43 that morning from Roslagen's flag center in Norrtälje, 42 miles north of Stockholm. 2 men cut through the canvas hangar wall, fired it up, and flew south. Pilot Alexander Eriksson, 35 years old, TV producer and cameraman, also worked as marketing manager for a wind power company. He owed money, debts that required answers, the kind of debt that makes a man with flight hours say yes to a plan this insane. Eriksson took off into darkness, met the team at a staging point in Midinga, and they modified the aircraft right there on the ground. 2 extension ladders, 20 feet each, aluminum, the kind contractors use daily, attached to the helicopter skids with zip ties, simple plastic cable ties, the type that come in bulk packs, no welding, no custom brackets, just ties pulled tight enough to hold metal rungs against tubular steel. The team packed sledgehammers, a buzzsaw, small explosive charges, empty duffel bags, prepaid phones. The modification took minutes, everything measured. The ladders had to reach exactly 20 feet down from the hovering chopper to the atrium balcony inside the pyramid. 1 foot off, and the whole plan collapses. 2:55 a.m., Nemanja Alic, 23, newsstand vendor, watched from a distance as police helicopters landed at Midinga. He used a prepaid phone, called the organizer, confirmed the cops were grounded. Over 90 minutes, more prepaid calls. 14 disposable phones total, a closed circuit, everyone checking in. 4 teams confirmed they were ready, with caltrops and chains to block roads. 2 teams at post-heist rendezvous points. The pilot ready, the inside men ready. Goran Bojovic coordinated from somewhere in the city. 39 years old, construction firm owner, Montenegrin roots, connections to Serbian organized crime, former links to BIA Red Berets, Serbia's secret police. 1 month before the heist, Serbian police warned Swedish authorities that someone was recruiting a helicopter pilot for a Stockholm robbery. The warning included Bojovic's name. Swedish police noted it, did nothing effective. The warning sat in a file while the crew finalized every detail. They unstrapped the first ladder from the skid, lowered it 20 feet down to the 5th floor atrium balcony, measured perfectly. The ladder locked against the balcony edge. 2nd ladder followed, both secured by nothing but gravity and angle. The men descended, boots on aluminum rungs. Inside the well-insulated 6th floor counting room, staff heard rattling. Oscar Lindgren, group leader, thought it was the idling trucks outside. They joked about it, sounding like someone robbing them through the skylight. This time, the vibrations were wrong, too strong. Oscar ordered the machines off so he could hear better. He called security on the 3rd floor. By the time he opened the airlock door and looked into the atrium, 2 ladders were propped against the opposite side, and a man in black with white shoes stood on the shorter one. Ran back, bolted one door, sealed the steel security door behind it. His team sent counted cash down the elevator to the 2nd floor vault, padlocked the cages, holding uncounted notes, and huddled in the corner. The door was raided for 15 minutes. The robbers had explosives, small-shaped charges. Ethylene glycol dinitrate mixed with nitroglycerin, sourced from Polish dynamite, tested beforehand to create precise blasts. They placed bombs at strategic points. The blasts echoed through the building like cannon fire. Security guards on lower floors hid under desks, afraid the building would collapse. Overnight staff locked themselves in a safe room. The robbers blasted the steel door. It held for a while. They used buzzsaws on the padlocks. The sound of metal grinding metal, sparks, then access. They were inside the cash cages, 6th floor. Duffel bags came out. 500 kroner notes, the heaviest denomination, packed in thick bundles. The men worked fast, no hesitation, knew exactly where to go. They stuffed bags, hauled them to the atrium, began the lift back up. The men had to carry the bags down the rungs, then hoist them back up using rope lines tied to the bags and pulled from above by the helicopter crew. Witnesses from the National Rail Administration offices directly opposite the G4S building watched it all. Sacks being raised into the hovering helicopter on ropes. The chopper stayed airborne, rotors beating the dawn air, burning fuel, the pilot holding position. 5:19 a.m., police received the first call. 9 minutes into the robbery. First patrol cars arrived at 5:25. 10 minutes in. But chains lined with caltrops, metal crow's feet designed to puncture tires, were stretched across the roads leading to the building. The first responders hit the spikes, tires blown, cars disabled. Officers were ordered not to act. Reports of submachine guns, explosives still possibly armed inside. The assault teams held back. The blood belonged to Sherwin Safa Kadam, 31 years old, Iraqi-born Swede. In 2000, Kadam and 2 accomplices had stormed the Swedish National Museum 2 days before Christmas Eve, stolen 2 Renoir paintings and 1 Rembrandt, worth $30 million, escaped on a boat, arrested in 2004 trying to sell the Renoir back to the museum, served 2 years, released 2006, then a jewelry shop burglary, and now this. Kadum slipped, bled, kept moving. They abandoned bags of cash at the base of the ladder, 15 bags left behind, because they couldn't lift them in time. Prosecutors later confirmed the robbers were forced to leave large amounts of cash because their helicopter could only carry the smaller load and time was running out. The men grabbed the last of their haul from the roof, jumped into the Bell 206. Doors clicked shut. 5:35 a.m., 20 minutes total. The helicopter lifted off. Police on the ground watched helplessly. Cell phone cameras captured the chopper withdrawing into the breaking dawn. The man above pulled hand over hand, raising each bag 20 feet straight up. A 20-pound bag takes maybe 30 seconds to haul. A 40-pound bag takes a minute. With 3 to 4 men working below and 1 pulling above, they could theoretically cycle bags every 45 seconds. Do the math. 20 minutes equals roughly 26 to 27 bags at that pace. But reality introduces friction. Bags snag. Ropes tangle. Men get tired. The slip that cut Kadam's hand cost seconds. The blood made rungs slippery. Panic creeps in when you hear sirens. The theoretical pace collapses to actual pace. They got maybe 20 to 25 bags out. 15 stayed. The rope system hit its operational limit. Staff arriving for early shifts saw a white and red helicopter hovering above G4S. Saw masked figures moving on the roof. Saw bags being pulled upward on ropes, swinging slightly in the rotor wash. One witness told police it looked like a movie set. Another said it looked like a military extraction. The surreal quality bought the crew seconds. People hesitated before calling police because their brains couldn't process what they were seeing. A helicopter robbery? In Stockholm? In 2009? The cognitive dissonance delayed some witness reports. By the time multiple calls flooded emergency lines, the crew was already inside and working. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Atavist magazine's investigative report published March 8, 2022, which includes first-hand interviews with law enforcement and trial records, and Grokapedia's detailed timeline cross-referenced with Swedish court documents from the Södertörn district court verdicts issued October 7, 2010. Now back to the information. Why couldn't police helicopters pursue? Because at 2:55 a.m. someone had placed decoy bombs at the Mittinga police helicopter base on Värmdö. 2 metal boxes, red blinking lights, one at the entrance door, one on the tarmac near the fuel. Pilots arrived ready to scramble 2 choppers to the G4S scene. Saw the boxes. Couldn't risk them exploding near jet fuel. Couldn't be certain there weren't more out of view. The bombs were fake. Empty metal boxes with a red light bulb powered by a battery, but they worked. Grounded the response. Swedish Air Force offered 2 JAS-39 Gripen fighters conducting drills over the Baltic Sea. Offer declined. Robbery was civilian matter, not military. The robbers had neutralized air pursuit without firing a shot. First in Norsborg, southwestern Stockholm suburb, Draget district. 1 or 2 men got out, took some of the cash. Witnesses reported seeing the chopper land briefly near residential areas. Second stop, near Lake Mälaren at Konenbadet Beach in the Bromma area. More cash offloaded. Witnesses heard speedboats starting moments later, then the helicopter flew north. At 8:15 a.m., 3 hours after the heist, hikers found it abandoned in woods near Skavlöten in Arninge, 30 kilometers north of Stockholm, just outside a field. The chopper was ditched, rotor blades still. Inside, forensic teams found fingerprints and DNA traces on items left behind. Zip ties, a GPS device, the evidence that would unravel the crew. Investigators matched traces to participants. The abandoned GPS showed flight paths, confirmed the Mittinga staging point, the Norsborg and Bromma stops. The blood on the ladder rungs gave them Kadam. His DNA was in 5 places inside the G4S depot, Video analysis from CCTV pegged him as the man with the Kalashnikov. Phone records revealed the 14 phone network. Investigators traced the SIM card purchases. Charbel Charo, 32, physical education teacher, Syrian descent, born and raised in Sweden, co-planner. He got pulled over by traffic police for a routine check. They found a receipt for 5 prepaid phones and SIM cards. That receipt was the only concrete evidence tying him to the case, enough for a 5-year sentence. Mikael Södergran, 33, explosives expert, previous conviction for explosives in Sweden. DNA traces on a rubber band used to secure detonator wires matched him, 5 years. Nemanja Alic, the man who placed the fake bombs at Minninga, left gloves behind, tried to burn them. Police retrieved DNA from the pieces, partial prints from the bomb boxes, but his DNA on the gloves was contested in court and he was acquitted on appeal. Apartment. Found him with a new BMW he'd been driving around town. In his closet, a bag containing 118,000 kroner. He claimed he was being framed, said the conversations intercepted by Serbian police about recruiting a pilot were about finding a crane operator for an illegal building project. I called the crane operator the pilot because he wore a pilot's jacket and sunglasses and looked like Tom Cruise in Top Gun, he told the court. Prosecutors weren't convinced. 3 to 4 years for planning, another 4 years for unrelated arson connected through wiretaps. September 28th, police stopped Alexander Eriksson at Stockholm's International Airport, checking in for a flight to the Canary Islands. He was arrested on the spot, claimed innocence. His defense later said they would present new evidence to prove he wasn't the pilot. That evidence never materialized. 7 years, increased to 8 on appeal. January 2010, 2010, U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration tipped off Swedish police. Kadum was in Puerto Plata, staying at Flor de Mirabal Grand Hotel in Punta Cana. Swedish authorities chartered a private plane. 10 masked Dominican police rushed him and a fellow Swede as they went to dinner in a small resort town near the Haitian border. Next day, Kadum was on the plane back to Stockholm. Faced with DNA evidence in 5 locations, he admitted participation. Claimed he was forced into it to pay debts. Thought the depot would be empty. Didn't want to involve anyone. Got 8 years, same as Eriksson. After appeals, increased the term by 1 year for gambling on acquittal. Some early reports speculated 70 million, but prosecutors confirmed 39 million as the verified amount stolen. At 2009, exchange rates approximately 5.7 million to 6.5 million US dollars. Conflicting currency conversions exist depending on the date used, but the Swedish krona amount is consistent across court documents. G4S initially offered a 7 million kroner reward, leading to speculation the haul was 70 million, since rewards are often 10%. But investigators ruled that out. The robbers left 15 bags at the base of the ladder. Police found those bags during the scene investigation. Prosecutors confirmed the crew was short on time and the helicopter could only carry the smaller amount. Of the 39 million stolen, only 118,000 kroner was ever recovered, the bag found in Boyovic's apartment. The rest vanished, untraceable. G4S processes unmarked cash. No serial number tracking lists were compiled before the theft. The money disappeared into the underworld. 7 were sentenced. 3 cleared. The trial was held in the basement of Stockholm Police Headquarters. Why the basement? So there was no chance a helicopter could land on the flat roof of the courthouse. Authorities weren't taking risks. The sentences came down October 7th, 2010. Alexander Eriksson, helicopter pilot, 8 years for aggravated robbery. Safa Kadum, inside man, 8 years. Goran Bojovic, 3 years for planning the G4S robbery plus 4 years for unrelated arson, 7 total. Charbel Charo, co-planner, 5 years based on the phone analysis and the receipt. Mikael Södergran, explosives, 5 years. 2 men who staged a fake traffic accident to give Eriksson an alibi got 2 years. 1 man who recruited the pilot got 1 year for protecting a criminal. The sentences were light by U.S. standards, but Swedish law caps aggravated robbery at 10 years. Prosecutors had argued for maximum. The court gave less. The ladder weight pulls straight down, and the skid tubing prevents the tie from sliding off. As long as the ties are tight and the ladder doesn't swing laterally, the system holds. The robbers tested this. They didn't just show up and hope. The precision of the 20-foot measurement means they had blueprints. Investigators suspected an insider or contractor leaked building plans. One lead investigator suggested the plans had been floating around Sweden since 2006, waiting for the right team. G4S staff interviews failed to turn up a source, but someone provided exact measurements. The pyramid height, the atrium depth, the distance from roof to balcony, 20 feet exact. Witnesses saw sacks being raised into the helicopter on ropes. This means someone in the chopper or on the roof was pulling rope hand over hand while bags were clipped below. A 20-pound bag of cash on a rope is manageable. A 50-pound bag strains the setup. Multiple bags in sequence under time pressure, with police 10 minutes out, created the bottleneck. That's why 15 bags stayed behind. Not because the rope failed. Because the clock ran out. The men couldn't haul fast enough. They cut losses, grabbed what they could carry, and flew. The rope system worked. The time system failed. In 2008, a group broke into a mail processing center in Gothenburg, spread caltrops, burned cars in different areas, left suspected explosive devices, paralyzed parts of Sweden's second largest city. They escaped. Sweden in the 2000s experienced a surge in organized cash heists. Between 1998 and 2004, Sweden recorded 224 assaults on armored vehicles and depots. Finland, by comparison, had 4 in the same period. The difference was a transition from localized Swedish gangs like Fucked for Life and Bröderskapet to sophisticated international networks recruiting specialists across borders. The Vestberga crew included Serbian nationals, Iraqi-born Swedes, Swedish nationals with no prior connection. They were assembled for one job: freelancers with specific skills, pilot, explosives, inside muscle. Coordinators, lookouts, a distributed model, harder to infiltrate, harder to dismantle. If the heist failed, the cost was negligible. If it succeeded, the return was massive. Risk-reward calculated precisely. The robbers bet on speed and audacity over equipment sophistication. They were correct. The threat assessment prioritized officer safety over immediate action. By the time the assault teams arrived, the helicopter was lifting off. The robbers were airborne at 5:35. Assault teams got there at 5:40 or later. The window closed. Critics argued a more aggressive response could have stopped the crew on the roof. Supporters argued sending officers into an active explosive situation without intel would have resulted in casualties. The debate raged in Swedish media for months. By the time Oskar Lindgren investigated the noise and saw the men, they were already inside. The 15-minute door rating assumed sustained attack with standard tools. Shaped explosives changed the math. The charges were custom mixed, tested for precision. Not overkill blasts that bring down walls, controlled bursts that shatter locks and hinges without collapsing the structure. The robbers brought exactly the right amount of explosive force for the exact doors they faced. That level of preparation speaks to inside knowledge or meticulous reconnaissance. This split the operation vertically, created the need for the pyramid to provide natural light to the atrium. The pyramid became the access point. A helicopter nullified perimeter security, bypassed ground-level defenses, and put men directly onto the weak point. The innovation wasn't the rope system. The innovation was recognizing that a helicopter turns a rooftop into a front door. After the helicopter was found abandoned, forensic teams processed the interior. They lifted prints from surfaces, recovered the GPS, cataloged the zip ties left inside. The ties had been used to secure the ladders to the skids, then cut off when the ladders were deployed. The crew left them in the cabin. Small oversight, big consequences. DNA on those ties linked individuals to the scene. The GPS showed precise flight times and locations. Midinge at 4:50 a.m., Vestberga at 5:15, Norsborg at approximately 5:45, Bromma around 6 a.m., Arninge by 6:30. The timeline matched witness reports, confirmed the multi-stop escape plan. Investigators used this to map the crew's movements, identify where cash was offloaded, where accomplices waited. It didn't recover the money, but it built the case. The 14 disposable phones formed a closed circuit. Each phone called only other phones in the network, no outside contacts, no accidental calls to personal numbers. The discipline was near perfect, but the receipt Charo carried for 5 phones and SIM cards created a paper trail. Investigators traced the purchase, linked it to the timing, matched it to the call patterns on the heist morning. The phones themselves were likely destroyed, but the metadata, call times, tower pings, durations, survived. Analyst work by investigator Hildeby reconstructed the communication web. The calls started at 2:55 a.m., with Alec confirming police choppers were grounded, then the cascade, check-ins every few minutes, coordination across Stockholm. When the helicopter lifted off, the calls stopped. Radio silence. The crew fragmented. Each man on his own. Some fled the country, some stayed, tried to blend. All were caught within months. And when he admitted participation under interrogation in the Dominican Republic, even claiming coercion, he handed them the case. His claim that he thought the depot would be empty contradicted the evidence. 21 workers were present during the raid. Staff counted on the 6th floor, guards on lower floors, security in the control room. Kadum stormed in with a Kalashnikov. CCTV caught him. He knew people were there. The coercion defense didn't hold 8 years. Ericsson's DNA in the abandoned helicopter on the GPS linked him to the flight. His flight hours, his access to aircraft, his desperation for money, all stacked up. His lawyer Leif Silbersky said new evidence would clear him. It never came. 8 years. But they couldn't place him in the helicopter. No DNA in the cabin. No witnesses put him on the roof. Phone intercepts from Serbian police caught him discussing a pilot recruitment, but his Tom Cruise explanation, absurd as it was, created reasonable doubt. He got 3 years for complicity, not aggravated robbery. The arson conviction added 4 more. He served 7 total, far less than the hands-on participants. The man suspected of being the brains did half the time of the triggerman. Swedish law requires proof. Suspicion isn't enough. Investments. That can't be traced. G4S confirmed the cash was unmarked. No serial lists, no die packs, no tracking. Perfect for disappearing. In the Netflix series, based on the heist, characters hide cash in glass jars buried underground in walls of vacant properties. Fiction, but grounded in logic. If you can't spend it immediately without drawing attention, you hide it and wait. Most of the 10 charged men served 1 to 8 years. All are free now. If the money is still hidden, some of them know where. Swedish public television. Sveriges Television released a 6-part documentary also called Helicopter Rånet in 2017. TV4 produced a special segment in 2024 exploring internal details, including surveillance footage from the depot, timed to the Netflix release. The heist influenced video game design. Grand Theft Auto V, released 2013 by Rockstar Games, includes a mission called the Bureau Raid, where protagonists break into an agency building using a helicopter landing on the roof and rappelling through a skylight. The parallel is clear. Real-life audacity becomes fictional gameplay. The Vesburga crew didn't invent helicopter heists, but they executed one so precisely that it became a template. Luck that the first responders hit caltrops and lost minutes. Luck that the pyramid skylight was exactly 20 feet above the atrium balcony, a distance the ladders matched. Skill in the planning, the recruitment, the timing, the explosive precision, the communication discipline. The crew needed both. If the police choppers had been at a different base, the fake bombs fail. If the pyramid had been 25 feet, the ladders don't reach. If staff had triggered the panic alarm 30 seconds earlier, the response tightens. If Kadam hadn't slipped and cut his hand, the DNA link weakens. Every heist is a stack of variables. Vesburga's stack held just long enough. Noted the fuel storage locations, calculated the response time from ground alert to airborne pursuit. That math said 12 to 15 minutes minimum. The heist window was 20 minutes. Tight but doable. Someone also mapped the road network around Vesburga, identified choke points, planned caltrop placement for maximum delay, 4 separate chains across 4 access routes. The chains had to be laid between 4:30 and 5 a.m. after any early traffic but before the heist. Too early, and someone calls police about suspicious objects on the road. Too late, and the timing collapses. The coordination required is staggering. 4 teams, 4 locations, synchronized deployment. One team screws up and police get through. Roslagen's flag center in Norrtälje had multiple aircraft. The Bell 206 Jet Ranger was selected because it was older, more common, easier to hotwire than newer models with digital locks. The canvas wall cut was surgical. No alarms tripped. No security response until the engine started. By then, the chopper was spinning up and gone. Flight time from Norrtälje to Mittinge staging area, roughly 15 minutes. At Mittinge, the crew attached the ladders to the skids. This staging point was critical, close enough to Vesburga for a quick strike. Remote enough to avoid witnesses during the modification. The zip ties went on in darkness. Pull them tight, check the ladder stability, test the attachment by lifting slightly. No time for a full flight test with dangling ladders. The system would either work or it wouldn't. They bet their lives it would work. The shaped charges were another engineering challenge. Too much explosive and you collapse the building. Too little and the doors hold. The crew needed precision. Reports confirmed they used a mixture of ethylene, glycol dinitrate, and nitroglycerin derived from Polish-made dynamite. Why Polish? Possibly procurement ease, possibly formulation preferences. The mixture allows controlled detonation velocity, fast enough to shatter steel locks and hinges without creating a pressure wave that brings down walls. This wasn't amateur hour. Someone on the crew had formal explosives training, military or industrial. Södergren, the explosives man, had a previous conviction, which means he had a known profile. Police should have been watching him. They weren't. The explosive charges were tested beforehand. Where? Unknown. But you don't bring untested charges to a heist this tight. The crew fired them somewhere remote, adjusted the formulation, confirmed the blast pattern, then manufactured the exact quantities needed for G4S. If they'd brought a 4th man inside, someone stays on the roof and pulls rope full-time while the others pack. If they'd used a motorized winch instead of hand pulling, the lift speed doubles. But a winch adds weight, complexity, noise, cost. The crew chose simplicity. Simplicity worked to a point. Then time ran out. The lesson for future criminals, and there will be future criminals, is that the weakest link in a fast extraction heist isn't usually the entry or the equipment, it's the exit under load. But the ties held because the crew calculated the load. 2 ladders, total weight under 100 pounds. 4 men descending one at a time. Body weight distributed across rungs, not concentrated on the tie points. The skids took the shear force. The ties just kept the ladder from sliding. Physics worked in their favor. The actual sentences ranged from 1 to 8 years. Average, maybe 4 to 5 years served after parole and appeals. For $6.5 million, split among 10 people, Even if most of it stayed hidden for later, the per-person take is $650,000. 4 years in Swedish prison, which is notably more humane than U.S. facilities, for $650,000. The risk-reward math is ugly, but understandable. And the 7 million kroner reward offered by G4S, roughly $1 million US. No one claimed it. No one snitched. The crew held the line. Kadum admitted his own role, but never gave up names. Under interrogation, under pressure, under years of imprisonment, the core participants stayed silent about the others. That silence protected the money. If one person flips and leads police to a cash stash for their reward, the whole network collapses. It didn't happen. If the core gets caught, they do the time, but the support network remains intact, ready for the next job. Every G4S facility in Sweden upgraded security after September 23, 2009. Rooftop access was hardened, skylights reinforced or eliminated, helicopter interdiction protocols put in place. The Swedish military now has clearance to engage in civilian air pursuit if another helicopter heist is attempted. The next crew would face fighter jets, not just grounded police choppers. The window Vestberga exploited has closed, but the rope system remains a case study in criminal engineering. Not the technology, the psychology. Thieves often over-engineer. They buy the best gear, the fanciest tools, the most expensive equipment. Then they get caught because the procurement trail leads back, or the gear fails because they didn't train with it, or it's overkill for the task and slows them down. The Vestberga crew went the opposite direction. Ladders anyone can buy. Zip ties anyone can buy. Rope anyone can buy. No special orders. No red flags. They tested the setup, confirmed it worked, deployed it under pressure. The simplicity was the genius. The permits were for skylight installation, filed by a contractor who went out of business in 2007. The files contained exact measurements, materials lists, structural diagrams. Those files were public record, accessible to anyone who knew where to look. No insider needed, just someone patient enough to dig through municipal archives. The crew had the blueprints legally. They didn't need a mole. They needed a researcher. That detail didn't come out in court because it didn't help the prosecution or defense. It emerged later in investigative journalism, specifically the Atavist magazine's Deep Dive published March 2022. The public record had been there all along, waiting for someone bold enough to use it. The Vestberga heist on September 23, 2009, proved that the most inaccessible vault room becomes accessible when you rethink access. The G4S depot was designed to stop ground assaults, vehicle assaults, tunnel assaults. It wasn't designed to stop a helicopter at dawn. The cheap rope system didn't drop thieves into the vault. It dropped them through the skylight onto a balcony 20 feet below, gave them a way back up, and turned a fortress into an open box. The system worked because the crew understood that expensive doesn't mean effective. Simple, tested, and fast beats complex and untried. The bags left behind at the ladder base are still there in evidence storage, a reminder that even a near-perfect plan has limits. Time ran out, the rope held, the money disappeared. And somewhere in Sweden, or Belgrade, or the Dominican Republic, or buried in a forest north of Stockholm, 38.8 million kroner sits waiting. The crew knows. They're not saying. The rope system did its job.